we'll get started. Like I said, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you may be joining us from. Today is the virtual agent staying out of the box session. This is a live on ServiceNow webinar. So moving forward, this is our safe harbor. Do you want to switch to the next slide? Thank you. This is our safe harbor, just in case we do make any forward-looking statements or show anything that's based on our current beliefs. These things can change in the future, so we just want to make that clear as we move forward. Next, today's session is a part of the Live on ServiceNow series, a curated event series to connect you with ServiceNow experts and peers that can help you deploy your products and achieve value faster. We hope that you can join us again for additional webinars and meetups. You can use this QR code or the link that's being dropped in the chat now to register for future events. This is for ITSM and the other products that is within Service. So going forward, just for some housekeeping, please do stay on mute. There is the question and answer functionality in Zoom that you can use for any questions that you have. And we will have time after the presentation and demo to take any questions that you might still have. This session is being recorded and will be shared with our ServiceNow community forum after the session. And then finally, after we end, we will send out a short survey that we really appreciate you if you can fill out. It really helps us make sure that we're making these events better each time. So with that being said, we'll move forward to introductions. For those of you that have not heard me on a webinar or a meetup before, my name is Isabella. I'm a senior product manager here at ServiceNow. I am with the IT Service Management product, and I've been with ServiceNow for about 5 years. And more recently have been focusing on virtual agent. So that's what brings me here today. And I'll pause for a moment to let Abhinav introduce himself.
Thank you, Isabella. So hi, everyone. I'm Abhinav Shekhar, and I'm a product manager at ServiceNow. And I've been part of ITSM BU since last 2.5 years. And I take care of ITSM Virtual Agent as one of the product. And along with it, I have benchmarks and Success Dashboard, which is a new product. So with that, I'll hand it back to Isabella to kickstart the session.
Awesome. Thank you, Abhinav. So we will get started by doing a poll. We really want to set the scene just to understand where everyone's coming from so we can level set and make sure that we are really tailoring this webinar to your needs and where you are. So this first question is around using ServiceNow's virtual agent today. Where are you on that journey? Are you using it? Yes or no? Are you considering it? Or no, you have not used it, or you're not considering it at this time. You're just here for learning purposes. All right, we'll just leave this open for a moment. Like 10 more seconds, get your answers in. Want to be efficient with everyone's time today. So far, it looks like majority of people are considering it. It's about 65% is what I'm seeing on my end. 21% are using it, and then another 19% no. So that's our first question for you. So that really helps us better understand where we are today. Most people are considering it, which is great. So then the second question we have for you, if you are using virtual agent now, how customized is your virtual agent? If this is not applicable because you do not have virtual agent, go ahead and just select not applicable. This is great feedback for us. So about 10% or so is still out of the box, and then the remaining 13% that do have virtual agent have some customization. Skewing just a little bit as more results come in, but for those that do have virtual agent, still looking around that 8 to 10% are out of the box, and then closer to 19-20% are having some customization. So that really helps us with this conversation as well. The next question we have is, did you know that ServiceNow is releasing new and enhanced virtual agent conversations quarterly via the ServiceNow store. So every quarter we are releasing new conversations or enhanced conversations via the store. We want to make sure that that information is getting out to you. So this will help us with that go-to-market perspective. So it's great to hear. Majority of people did not know, which is something we'll take back definitely to the team to work on that. About 71% did not know. Also could be because you're not using virtual agent right now, so that makes sense. But we definitely want to make sure that we are keeping that up to date. All righty. So then the next and final question is, are you aware that of the virtual agent implementation services we have or that are available? So whether that be a partner service, ServiceNow service, or the fact that you would do like your own implementation. So this is a little bit less applicable to you. So we'll leave this one open just for 20, 30 more seconds, and then we'll get going. So it looks like about 27% have used partner services, 9% have used ServiceNow, 28% want to learn more, which is great because we will be covering this. And then 49% would use their own org for implementation. Like I said, this really helps us level set and get some setting the scene of where we all are coming from. So thank you again for answering those questions, and we'll get started. So going into our first piece, we want to start by sharing a story from one of our customers. Our goal here is to give you some insight into where you can be by using our virtual agent and what the value and outcomes you can expect from using virtual agent. Our customers here got hammered when employees started working from home. They had IT service management professional and Microsoft Teams. And so they implemented VA on Teams or within Teams. In just over a quarter, they saw a reduction in ticket creation by 40%. Like I said, this is just in one quarter. And this was really delivering significant cost reduction. And their employees loved it. They really liked being able to stay within Teams, not having to leave Teams to get the answers they're looking for. So as you can see, we have a lot of improvement using virtual agent, and it also showcases our integrations with things like Microsoft Teams, Slack, etc. This is where you can really see a lot of value as well. So going forward, before we dive into how ServiceNow virtual agent can address many of these challenges you might be facing, let's call out what these challenges are, what the most common challenges we're hearing are. First, virtual agent implementation and governance can be an area many users struggle with. There are a lot of considerations and planning that must take place. This is specifically talking to how to best set up and manage VA over time. Not only will we talk about how to stay out of the box, we will also share more about the services that we have around virtual agent, like I mentioned before. Second, virtual agent designer. Once you have virtual agent up and running, how do you use the designer to create the conversations or customize what is available, especially with the current skill set that you already have? And then third would be meeting organization specific needs. So something we hear as a pain point is the desire to create the least number of customizations while meeting the needs of that end user. And then within that same vein, how do we get users to realize and use this new tool set? So these are some of the common challenges we hear, and we're going to talk through a few of these today. So going forward, now to talk into the how. Avnav, if you can switch that slide. Thank you. Alrighty, so let's see what's going on behind the scenes with virtual agent. So one of the main goals we hear from customers when they want to start with virtual agent is that they want to enable employees to self-service and find the answers they want within the automated channels and reduce the load placed on agents and the queue. So as I go through this graphic here, we're going to start from the left side, go into the black box, and then down. So that's kind of the pattern we're going here so that you can follow along. So an employee engages with a virtual agent or can engage with a virtual agent via mobile, Teams, Facebook Workplace, Slack, whatever channel they're working on, and they can work with the virtual agent to resolve a request or an incident. The virtual agent uses pre-built catalogs and knowledge bases and external sources to resolve the issues. One of the questions we hear a lot is, I built all this catalog, I built all these knowledge bases, do I have to start over again for a virtual agent? And the answer is no. These are the most powerful resources you have. So using this as that pre-built content gives you much broader coverage. So out of the box, we provide pre-built conversations to help resolve many of these requests or incidents. Using a bundle of NLU models, VA topics, Flow Designer, Integration Hub to provide that automated resolution. You can see that on the top of that black box. And sometimes the VA cannot always cover everything, and therefore we do have the capability of live agent transfer. So we do recommend integrating with that live agent. This creates a seamless integration and transition from the VA that cannot resolve your issue to the employee or that agent to help resolve the employee's issue or request. So behind the scenes, the VA transfers the employee to live agent without ever leaving the channel or the collaboration tool. VA transfers to the next available agent, but if you do have advanced work assignment, it will use the skills and availability to bring the right agent in, which is a very powerful tool in this sense. Also, we have autopilot, which allows the virtual agent to run a conversation on behalf of the agent. This is for those more repetitive use cases like password reset. So I'm a live agent, I'm talking to an employee, they need to reset their password. Rather than me manually asking all the questions we already know we're going to need, you can run a virtual agent autopilot conversation and it'll gather all that information that's needed, for example, for that password reset. Additionally, not only do we have users reaching out to the VA, we also have actionable notifications, which essentially you can use the virtual agent to proactively notify employees or reach out to them for other things like announcements, ticket updates, comments, approvals, etc. The virtual agent has the capabilities to help even prevent requests and incidents from coming up via incident auto resolution, which we love to call Agent Zero. So essentially what's going on here is if you if you're an employee and you submit an incident or a request and the virtual agent has the issue auto resolution to update or to handle that request, it'll immediately get assigned to the virtual agent first. If the employee accepts the help from the virtual agent and it works out, incident request will be closed. If it does not, the virtual agent will then reroute it to an agent. So that's kind of what's going on behind the scenes. Like I said, I'm going to quickly go over some of the additional functionalities that we have that will really help admins set up and use the designer and really just stay out of box. We'll also go over the conversations we have. So I just want to quickly pause here to see if there's any questions. Abhinav, do we have any questions?
So we have a question on integration with Zoom. So we do. So just to answer that question, so we do have a few integrations with it. For example, you can create meeting invites using Zoom, using it on virtual agent itself. We have integrations to get the meeting recordings and share it out with the participants. So there are a few integrations that are available out of the box.
Awesome. I hope that answers your question. Thank you for bringing that up. Just pause another moment to make sure there's no more questions. This session will be shared on our community page, so you'll be able to go ahead and look at that after we end here. Awesome. Okay, moving forward, conversational homepage. So the interfaces homepage. This is where admins can start. As I mentioned, we have invested and enhanced a lot of the key features around virtual agent to assist admins in setup and configuration. The CI homepage guides admins through the entire implementation journey as a one-stop hub for everything the admin may need. Sorry, I lost the screen. Let me just make sure I can get that back. Okay, cool. Apologize for that. So as I mentioned, it's a one-stop hub for setup and configuration of virtual agent. Dynamically recommends relevant plugins and store apps to be installed. Additional capabilities on the CI homepage include enabling features such as topic recommendations, which I will go through in a moment, issue auto resolution, AI search, and NLU. You can add chat to portals from this CI homepage, and you can test your virtual agent bot as well. So this is a really powerful tool for our admins for setup and configuration. So going forward to topic recommendations, as I mentioned, I would be going through this. So from here, we have topic recommendations as a potential next step. This allows you to identify pre-built virtual agent topics to automate high volume issues. Topic recommendation analyzes and filters on incidents, requests, live agent chat script, transcripts, and more to show you which type of VA conversations would provide the most benefit. Also, you can see potential deflection metrics for each topic. I'm not going to dive too deep into this as Abhinav will be showcasing it in his demo, and I want to maximize our time together. So moving on, we're going to talk about ServiceNow Store. So from topic recommendations, you will see which conversations you will likely want to implement first. So we suggest making sure you go to the ServiceNow Store to ensure that you have the latest release installed. As I mentioned, we are releasing new and enhanced conversations via the ServiceNow Store on a quarterly basis, and we are aiming to continuously improve self-service and ease agent burden. So this would be your first step when you're trying to stay out of the box. So you'd go here. Next, I want to showcase some of the conversations that we do have available for ITSM. So we released over 81 new topics or enhancements via the ServiceNow Store, and they're available today to install. As you can see, there are some main overarching topics and a lot of features and capabilities underneath that. So for example, Citrix, which we will be going through, we have Citrix provisioning and Citrix management. So those are, capabilities within the idea of Citrix that we have available on here. Going forward, you can see the additional conversations that we have. As I mentioned, we have 81. So continuing on here, many of our customers are global organizations servicing end users in multiple languages. So we have focused on updating our out-of-the-box conversations to support multiple languages. So we have both localization framework and dynamic translation. Localization framework has pre-built translations for everything that is out of the box. This includes both NLU models and virtual agent conversations in Spanish, Japanese, Italian, Chinese, Brazilian, Portuguese, Korean, English, French, Canadian, Dutch, French, and German. And then we have dynamic translation. This is available for virtual agent and NLU, and this is done on the fly. So in conversation, and therefore is available for any language. And this is really based on the language service that you are plugged into. So that's kind of where we're coming at from a language perspective. And I know that's always a hot topic. So I definitely wanted to make sure to cover this. And then I'm going to pause here, see if there's any questions, and then we'll get into, so we do have a question. What is the URL to the conversational interface home? We can drop more information on that in the chat. Yes, thank you, Victor, for answering that. Appreciate it. Alrighty, I think that was the only question I saw pop up, and Victor's got that, so I appreciate it. And moving forward, so virtual agent designer. So we have a lot of pre-built content. If our pre-built content doesn't cover what you need, or the needs need to be slightly modified, our virtual agent designer enables you to build your own conversation in a low-code drag and drop interface, which again, Abhinav will be looking at a little bit more in detail. We provide reusable topic blocks and integrations with ServiceNow platform capabilities, such as Integration Hub and AI Search. Although this session is aimed at staying out of the box, we would be remiss to not mention that you can make modifications to our pre-built content to meet your exact and specific needs. So with that being said, again, I'll pause one more time just to ensure there's no more questions, and then I will hand it over to Abhinav to do a quick demo for us. Awesome. Let's see. I think there's a question in the chat. Is VA a good candidate for citizen development? Is it scoped? Abhinav, do you want to take that one?
So yes, Paul, this is a scoped app, and when you say is it for citizen development, are you talking about the delegated authoring experience? Can you type that answer in the chat? So right now it's with the limited people who have the virtual agent authoring role, but in future definitely that sounds like a good feature to delegate this option to the different service owners and to the different service groups to develop these topics.
Any other questions? Let's see. Great, glad that answered your question. Does ServiceNow plan to include VA tools into AES?
Dennis, on this particular question, I need to get back to you on this one. Right now, we don't have any.
Yeah, maybe further.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get back to you on that one. We appreciate the question. Awesome. Anyone else before we move on to the demo? Alrighty, sounds good.
Thank you, Isabella. So, hello everyone. So let's get into the demo and the meat of the meeting, where we will be showcasing the capabilities on how to set up Citrix and how to get started with the topic itself that I shipped out of the box. So to start with, as Isabella was mentioning earlier, so the first place that you would go to is your conversational interface home. So let me just quickly give you a glimpse of where and how you can navigate to it. So you can just go under the conversational interface as in the navigation menu item, and you can go into individually this particular one. Right. So this is where you navigate to the home page where you get to see all the available features, all the available plugins, and whatever the capabilities that we have out of box. Now, along with it, you would also be able to do some settings like for the different capabilities that Isabella was just sharing. So you would be able to, so from the chat or the conversational home itself, you would be able to go into chat settings as well. And do some tweakings depending upon what your requirements are. So these are the different aspects, and now let's say once you have decided that you want to go ahead with virtual agent. So the first step that would come up for you is topic recommendation. Now, let me touch upon this one and show you a detail or analysis that we run. So before we as an organization, we go ahead and decide where to invest and what are the different conversations we should be building. We should understand the paradigm and the different kinds of needs that the users are coming in with. And that's where the topic recommendation or the intent discovery is the one that would be helpful. So from your navigation menu, you can just search for intent discovery, and you would be able to run the analysis on multiple and different kinds of sources. So the sources that we have out of the box are incident table. You can run the analysis on request. You can run analysis on NLU utterances and as well as the transcripts that has transpired for the different conversation that the users have undergone in the virtual agent bot. Now, what I have over here is a sample analysis that I ran, and this is on the incident. And if you see that it is timestamped with the date that I ran it on, and it gives you a brief summary on what were the records that were analyzed during this particular analysis. And the key thing to note over here is what's the output of it. So once this particular analysis run, it clusters all your different incidents it clusters them into intents that you can go ahead and implement as a virtual agent conversation. Now, now over here, it gives you what's the records that have matched it, what was the intent, and just a sample way to read it is, okay, this is it's an incident, it's an IT related incident related to software and specifically around SAP. Now, how does this intent help us? Now, this gives us what's the percentage of incidents that are coming in with this particular intent that the requesters or the employees are looking for. Now, if we look at these, it gives you the list of all of them, and that's where you would be able to take the next step onto developing this as a virtual agent conversation. Now, for our demo today, we would be considering this as an instance where we would be delving into virtual workspaces related issue and specifically to the Citrix one. So once you identify the intent itself, for example, you've been seeing a lot of incidents around Citrix section being hung or a Citrix session that needs restarting. So once this intent is identified, the next stop is the topic recommendation, which is to identify whether there is something out of the box that can be utilized and how you can get that set up and get started with it. So topic recommendation is where it identifies or the same analysis would now be represented in a way that you would be able to see it from a perspective of the different topics that are available. So this is separated and into two categories. One is the topics that we can already handle, as in things that are already available on the system and is active for the end users and the employees to use. The other is where you need to build and invest in. So these are the intents where you would need to create a conversation, to create a topic out of it. Now, let's say we were looking at the intent that was software application virtual workspace. So let me see if I have it here. And this is the one. And you would be able to get more details around each one of them. Now, you would have an option to get, let's say, add to VA. Now, as we saw earlier that this particular intent is tied back to Citrix specifically. So what is it next that you should be looking at from an out-of-box capability to enable this topic, right? So this is the identification of or discovering what your needs are. The next thing is to go and see whether ServiceNow has it out of the box. So I'll take a pause and see if Isabella, if there's any questions.
Not seeing any. I think we're good to go, but we can just pause to make sure nobody wanted to drop anything in the chat or the question and answer function. Nope, sounds good. All right, thank you, everyone.
So next is our documentation site, right? Or even you would be able to go onto the store and look at the different versions and see what are the different out-of-the-box topics that is available from ServiceNow. Now, I see that under ITSM documentation, I see for a virtual agent, we have something to manage Citrix sessions. So let me see what are the steps, and it suggests me to download a Citrix connector. Now, one thing to note from the the slide that Isabella showed us, where we have the list of out-of-the-box topics. So we have around about the 50% of our out-of-the-box topic has an integration with a third-party application. Like we had a question on Zoom, so we have that as well. We have on Citrix, Azure AD, and Exchange Online, things like that. So 50% of our topic integrates with them, integrates with the integration hub spokes to build that automated experience for the employee. Now, let's see how we can get this particular connector. So on the store, you need to go ahead and request for this. So if I search for Citrix, I'll get the list of all the applications, and you can go ahead and request it for your instance. And this is the one that we will be helping in. So once you request it, once you get this particular connector on your system, now you are set to configure and get started with building that background connection between virtual agent and Citrix itself. So the next step is where let me navigate here to this particular point. So let's say I would now, once the installation is done, this would be the section that would be available to you on your instance. Now, the next thing is to connect our virtual agent or our instance with the Citrix cloud server itself. So once we click on home, so this is where you need to do the connection between the ServiceNow instance and help it talk to the Citrix server. So I have subscribed to Citrix Cloud, so I'll just quickly show you what needs to be done. So I have Citrix Cloud open. So my first step, So my first step is already done. So the next step, it says, is connect to the cloud. Now to connect to the cloud, when you hit on here, you see that it needs a client ID along with some secret code. And this is where the secured connection between these two instances will be made. So you need to go into Citrix Cloud and you need to go into Identity and Access Management. And for your instance, you need to generate this client ID through API access. Now, right now, for this particular instance, I've already generated it. But let's say if I have another instance that I need to do it for, I just need to come here and say, okay, generate it for me. Now, again, this one as well has it. So it'll, in the background, it'll check for the subscription and it'll generate it for you, and it'll be available for you here. Now, once that's generated, you need to add this details on what's the client ID as well as the secret code. So let me pause my sharing while I copy the codes. And we can take some questions at this point of time while I copy it. Isabella, do we have
So, yep, one question just came in. As a part of our clone process, we exclude the journal table. So we are missing all comments and work notes in dev and test. Will this cause an issue with the analysis on the incident table, for example?
It wouldn't, Brian, because in fact, you can choose which particular table or column you would like to run this analysis on. So if you would like to do it on short description, and if you think that short description would not be a meaty content to do it, you can run it on the description itself. So it's not a detrimental aspect.
Any other questions?
Okay.
Thanks.
Perfect. So now you can go ahead, test it, and save this connection. So in the background, it starts getting all the credentials that you would need and all the details on the properties that you would need to connect back to Citrix server. So now, once this is set, you would see that the data was synchronized and it happened at this particular moment. Now over here, it still says the connection is loading, and when it has, The next thing to configure is the property itself. So let me see if I have the property loaded up. Yeah, I have this over here. Now, one thing to note over here on the property itself. So there would be some customization or some items that would be very, very specific to you as an organization. For example, the domain itself. Right now, if you, and this is something that you need to update over here, and this is the main access that you need to do it through. So you would be, you need to provide this customer domain. And once you provide this, the second thing that you would, you can configure over here is what is that particular column in your sysuser table that should be taking, should be considered as a Citrix username, right? So right now, out of the box, it's username. So let's say if I am Abhinav Shekhar, so it will take Abhinav.Shekhar as the user name for Citrix as well, which is same as my ServiceNow uh, username. So let me go ahead, update this customer domain, and we should be set. Just a moment there. So I have updated uh, uh, the domain to the one that I need. So we can look at the property again. And this is now how the connection would happen through this particular domain for us. So this is on how you configure and first of all, identify which topics to leverage. The second, how to configure Citrix on your instance. The next thing is where we would go ahead and look at the virtual agent designer itself and see, because when I looked through the documentation for ServiceNow, I saw that there's an existing topic. So let me go through this virtual agent designer and see whether there's a topic already. So once you search it, you would have a template topic related to provisioning Citrix desktop as well as Citrix session. So these are the templates that you can leverage at your organization, and you can make changes, customization depending upon what your needs are. So for example, one thing to note over here is the scope itself. Now, in the conversation flow, you would be able to run scripts, different flows and different actions, which is tied back to a particular scope. So let me change it to ITSM virtual agent conversation so that it's created in the correct scope so that the scripts work perfectly and the actions work as expected. So let me search it again. So you can go ahead and duplicate it. So you can go ahead, duplicate it. Let's say I say Citrix reset for ServiceNow. Now, once you save it, you would get few other aspects that you can customize. Right now, a particular topic is driven through or the identification of when to run this topic is run through in two ways. One is a keywords based search that would can be leveraged, as well as we have natural language understanding engine in the background, which you can leverage and associate to a topic to run this on. So let me quickly and in a short moment just show you what are the different utterances. Now, for example, if you would like to change this, if you would like to make some amendments or additions to this, so you would be able to duplicate this and add the utterances over here. Otherwise, you can just go through it, and it looks like for my needs, it would suffice the need. So I'm good with the NLU intent. I go to the flow, um, uh, and I'll just take care of few messaging or the messages that needs to be sent out to the user. Now, one thing to note over here is the next aspect. So we are not just providing you help to create this conversation, but also um, in the longer run, help you analyze the data captured for each of these conversation. So how to instrument this data points, or how to instrument each of this conversation? So we have something which we call as deflection tracker, or a deflection topic block. Now, this is now where it comes in handy is if you would like to understand milestone the user's journey on virtual agent and see how it's helpful and to what extent the end user is helped. You can go ahead and tie this back and say, okay, if the incident is created, it suggests that, okay, I was able to, I didn't help them end to end, but I was able to help them maybe at least reaching out to the right person with the right context, right? So you would be, and we ship out of the box different configurations and different patterns that you can leverage. So let's say over here, as we are creating a task, we will say we have created a ticket out of it. Now, other aspect of it is, okay, if we are creating an incident, can we track how many incidents are coming through virtual agent and specifically Citrix related incident, even though we invested in creating this topic, right? So you would be able to provide the table name as well as, let's say, the sys ID. So I'm not, this would be the sys ID that you would be getting from as an output of this one. So just for a sample, let's say if I say sys ID of it. Once you do this and save it, the next step is publish it. So bare minimum changes, and you are all set to go, get going. Right now, for our today's session, what we did is we have created a Citrix reset session topic on our instance. So let's give it a try and see how it works. Let me impersonate Bharat, who's our user, and let me go on to yes. Now, one thing to note, like Isabella was also mentioning during her presentation, that we are meeting the employees where they are, so where they are generally spending most of their time. So portal is just one avenue where we surface these conversation, but you can use any of our channels. So you would be able to integrate with Microsoft Teams and others as well. So let me say, and once this loads up, you would see that we have custom greetings, and it gives some information before you can get started with it. So let me say I need to reset my Citrix session, or let me start with provisioning, in fact, so that you would be able to see how the provisioning works. So provision me a new Citrix session. And in the background, the NLU that is shipped out of the box would take care of identifying it and says, yeah, I do have a option for you. So it'll go ahead, use in the background, it'll go to the cloud server, it'll try to identify the different aspects for this particular user, and then go ahead and try to uh, help me in provisioning it. So right now it says, yeah, I'm eligible to uh, either request for a desktop or an app. And I say, yes, please go ahead. And here it's done, the request is submitted. Now, in the background, let's say the admins would, there's bare minimum touch points that our agent needs to do so that most of it is taken care of through the automated framework that we have. So let me say no right now, and let me for this particular demo perspective approve the request that just came in. So under Citrix, you would see that there would be user requests, which would be managed by the admins. And this is the one that is out here. Now, before I approve it, let me also show you that right now I don't have that desktop, but once this request is approved, it would be so. So once the request is approved, it would come up and you would be able to see the desktop. So this was a simple use case where I was able to provision or utilize an out-of-box topic, make a few tweaks here and there, and utilize it for self-serving the end user. Now I'll take a pause here um, for if there's any questions. Isabella, do we have any questions on Q&A?
Somebody is looking for the link to the ITSM VA spokes. If we're able to share that, we can drop that in the chat. And then I think that's the only question at the moment.
Okay. So we'll also be sharing out the useful resources, right, Isabella, so that we can let participants can leverage it. So let's include that as part of that resource set.
Sounds good.
Now, this is an example where we had an integration in the background, right, where we were integrated with a third-party virtual workspace provider. Let's say if you want to go ahead and look at any. So let me go into topic recommendations again and see, let's say if I have to now, how we are going to help you truly realize the end-to-end outcome is we have a service, we have an out-of-box analytics dashboard that helps you understand and get insight into how your virtual agent is performing. So let's say if you want to see what's your investment on virtual agent is reaping benefits or not, is it helping in deflecting these low value, high volume incidents or not. So you can go ahead into this dashboard and get all those insights. So this would help you identify, understand what's the different aspects of the user behavior on virtual agent, how each of the topics is performing, how the users are responding back to these topics that you have built or enabled. Now, this acts as an input or an insight for you to make the next iteration of what's next topic that you should be looking at. Now, let's say best case scenario, we would have all the three, or on the topic recommendation, the one that we saw, that the possible number of deflection is achieved for Citrix. Now, that's the one, that's the percentage that's taken out from an effort that the agent will be and needed to invest in. And you can look at some other topics, right? So let's say I have this topic out of the box. Now I can go ahead and add it to the VA, or in fact, leverage the virtual agent designer itself to say, okay, I see that there is a lot of issues around collaboration application as well. So if I go into the designer, the same process of iteratively and incrementally improving on it, you would be able to leverage any of these out of the box topic and just hit duplicate and publish them, and it's ready to use. So I'll take another pause here
I do have a
And
few questions. So one of the questions is, I assume all of this works the same whether using ITSM portal or CSM portal or FSM.
um, okay. So one thing that we show I let me show you there is on the portal configuration itself. So on conversational interfaces, you would be able to choose which portals you would like to surface the virtual agent for. So right now on this particular instance, we have Employee Center and Service Portal. And you can, if you have a CSM portal or a FSM1, you can choose it and this gets represented or gets on that particular portal for the end users to use.
Hey, Abhinav, I think the question more so is for this particular Citrix topic, would it work on ESC and FSM portals, etc.?
Oh, can we get a confirmation on that, if that's the question?
In a moment, I'm sure. So the choice is visible if you are utilizing CSM, FSM, like we are with mobile agent app. So it's around the choice being visible if you're utilizing one of these other products.
So, okay. So you would be with CSM, you also get a privilege of using ITSM topics, so you would be able to use it. I'll just check if this works cross-portal. Victor, do you have an insight on that?
No, it's my question to you.
Okay, I'll get back to you on that, Victor, and others. So I'll check if it's the cross-portal availability of the topics.
Awesome. And then another question is, how might customizations, oh wait, previous to that, when you say customizations for conversation, is it really more around configuration and configuring the flow of conversations?
Can you come again with the question when you say customization?
Yes.
For customization?
So it says, when you say customizations of conversations, is it really more around the configuration and configuring the flow of the conversation?
That's correct, Paul. So most of the flow we have designed keeping the most generic use cases that we saw for our customer set. Now, if there's anything from the flow perspective, like we were on the topic, so let's say if something or an aspect of the workflow does not make sense for your organization, that is what you can customize, change, and suit it more to your branding or your. So,
and then kind of within that same vein, how might customizations of virtual agent impact upgradability?
My customization of it. Okay, so as you saw, I was enabling or duplicating a template topic. So with template, what we are trying to do is with each release, if there's an update to it, you still would have that template handy to which would be the most recent one. And if you see the if you see from the release note that it makes more sense for you to go ahead with the upgrade, you would be able to copy it, and your base version that you're still using would not be impacted.
Also, I think, Russell, you might have been unmuted in case you wanted to clarify your question a bit further. No pressure if you didn't want to.
Yes, I was just trying to say we use case management at the customer level. So they go to the CSM portal, they bring up chat now, but I'm going to use virtual chat for them there. But we also, and the agents work from the case workspace. If there's any elevation, then they elevate either as an incident to administrators and software or to field service agents for hardware. Those personnel would also be able to utilize virtual agent to help them resolve issues and solutions in the future is what we're looking for. And then we also offer both our customers as well as field service agents the use of mobile agent app as well as a customer portal from their cell phones. So what I want to know is if the things I'm programming into virtual agent is transportable across all spectrums of not just ITSM, but CSM and FSM.
So let me address this from a more generic perspective. The short answer is yes. Anything you build in the virtual agent is accessible across any channel, whether any portal, any app, etc. That being said, as you're kind of alluding to, you probably want to filter or put some conditions like, hey, customers see these group of topics, agents see these groups, etc., and so on. So
certainly, yes.
So you can do that. The question I was inferring from your question, what I asked Abhinav is like in the Citrix case topic or any other out-of-box ITSM topics, are those transferable across portals? And I'm going to say it depends, but I'm going to let Abhinav provide any color to that.
So as far as I remember, know of this one, Victor, so the CSM portal would have its own scope, right? So that's why I need to check back whether it's available across the ITSM Citrix topic is available on CSM topic portal or not. Let me check that out.
Well, just to be clarified, Citrix problem would never go to FSM because I wouldn't ask my field service agents to resolve a Citrix problem. That's for the system administrator, software people in the Citrix area. So that would always be withheld within ITSM as far as incident management, resolution, and so forth, or request in the catalog space. So obviously, we separate our knowledge articles by tier 0 for self-help, tier 1, and then the tier 2, tier 3 help is there. So basically, virtual agent, if it's somebody, a field service agent, it's going to only pull up answers that he needs or she needs from tier 2 knowledge articles situated for field service agents. So we try to be very particular of what they have all access to.
Got it, Russell. So one thing I'd like to comment over here is you would be able to build that cross bot. Let's say you have one bot for CSM, one bot for ITSM. You would be able to have that cross bots experience where, let's say, if there is some topic that can be surfaced to a customer or the external user, they would you would be able to surface those kinds of topics on CSM portal versus ITSM. So you would be able to connect multiple bots together and see wherever the synergy lies on the topics that can be surfaced for both kind of users. You can do that, and this bot can connect as an option is available from San Diego as a release.
Alrighty, I don't mean to interrupt such a great conversation, but we are at past time. So I just want to quickly go ahead and share these last slides really quickly to make sure we can just cover it off. So we do have a few virtual agent services or some services that help you maintain and build out your virtual agent. So we can drop this also in the chat, but we have ITSM Pro Plus coming out, which is a do-it-for-me white glove service that has our virtual agent optimized as well as our pro products. So that is coming out. And then the next slide just talks a little bit more about some of the resources we have, which we dropped in the chat. And then no more time for any questions, but we really want to thank everyone for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed the session. Please do fill out that survey after and look for more coming events.